Invite a Budget Blinds style consultant to show you how to transform your rooms just by changing your window coverings. Canada's #1 choice for window coverings. Visit budgetblinds.ca today.
Welcome back. We're just weeks away from Election Day, and Alberta residents pick their representatives May 5th. As early polls have shown, this may be one of the closest elections the province has seen in recent history, and that means local candidates have been busy spending time meeting with possible constituents and campaigning for their respective parties. In our continued election coverage, we sit down with Vermilion Lloydminster Wildrose candidate Danny Hozack as he talks about his party's chances this spring. Early election comes right after, you can almost say, a controversial PC budget. A lot of people unhappy with this, including the Wildrose Party. You guys, in fact, have come out with your own version of the budget, and one that includes not raising taxes. Now, how does that work?
Well, clearly a lot of people aren't happy with Prentice's budget, which brought in 59 new taxes. We've presented our alternative budget, which would cap the increase in debt in 2017. We'd be back to balanced budgets. We've done a pretty good job of presenting a budget which it relies on deferring some capital spending. It relies on reducing management by, I think, 3,200 positions, 1,600 in Alberta Health Services and 1,600 at the top levels of the government. And it involves a whole range of fiscal prudence, and I think it's entirely doable. It's been looked at by a range of academics in Alberta, and you can be sure that if there were any holes in the budget, Jim Prentice would be out with his chart and a graph showing what was wrong with it. And the fact that he hasn't said anything about it except to just say he doesn't like it, to me proves that it is a doable budget and we intend to do it.
All right, and I would be amiss if I didn't at least mention the backlash that the Wildrose Party got when then leader Danielle Smith and a few other MLAs crossed the floor into the PCs. Now, I know today's Wildrose has been fighting against that image and kind of trying to win back support. How's that going?
I think it's going wonderfully, and I think we have to realize, and I think most people in the country do realize, that in the last election we had 422,300 and some odd people who voted for Wildrose. Only 11 of them left, and they were the 11 people that were being paid. And so when I talk to my friends, they're as excited as ever. They're still committed to helping our party to provide or to build a better Alberta that has health care that works, that gets value for every dollar spent, has an accountable government that doesn't leave their kids in the next generation with a huge big debt. So I think we've rebounded quite nicely, thank you very much.
Why Wildrose? Why now?
Well, Wildrose now is because we've actually, as a province, we've had pretty much like winning the lottery. We've had a decade of the highest revenues in Alberta's history. And in that decade, Alison Redford, Jim Prentice, and his PCA friends have taken us from having $17 billion in savings to potentially being $30 billion in debt by 2019. And so the sooner we have Wildrose, the less debt we will end up with, and the brighter our future will be, because all of these infrastructure things, all the things that we all believe that we need, once debt becomes a line item in your budget, there's less infrastructure you can buy every year. And so I think the PCs have frittered away like one of the sort of economic booms of the century, and now we're heading into difficult times, and we think we have the resolve to get our spending under control.
And we'll have the complete interview with Danny Hozack tonight on our Facebook page. We continue our election coverage tomorrow as we sit down with incumbent MLA Richard Starkey. Well, a Lloydminster couple has been recognized for the volunteer work they do. The Governor-General Caring Canada Award has been given to people who have made their communities better through their volunteering efforts for the past 20 years. Ruby and Lauren Trudell helped to save 1.6 million pounds of food from going to the landfill in their home community of Yellowknife. The two have returned from Ottawa, where they received their award from the Right Honourable David Johnston.
It was just awesome. A lot of pomp and ceremony, and it was just very nice.
We were received at Rideau Hall in the ballroom that you see on television anytime the Governor General does awards of any kind.
The duo started a food rescue effort in Yellowknife 7 years ago. They say too much food was being wasted and sent to the landfill when it could have been used by those in need.
We would go to each of the 3 grocery stores once a day. They knew we were coming, and they would set things aside for us. And the things they would set aside for us were things that were on the cusp of their best before date, or items that had been slightly damaged.
The Trudells moved to Lloydminster 2 years ago to be with Ruby's mother and aren't ruling out starting a similar program here in the border city.
The potential is there, but it would need businesses that were cooperative. And to this point, that hasn't happened. And once again, a large volunteer base and then a facility.
Nearly 50 volunteers from across Canada received this year's award. Well, jumping rope may be a fun game for students, but today it takes on another meaning. The children at St. Mary's Elementary School aren't just getting their exercise, they're also raising money for the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada. Katie Hudson has more.
Today is the day everyone's been waiting for during the Jump Rope for Heart program. Shaylee Zur, who teaches phys ed at St. Mary's, says this is the wrap-up to the campaign. It started when the Heart and Stroke Foundation came to speak about heart disease.
So they kind of showed a video of kids when they're born having heart diseases and heart problems. So the kids are aware that it doesn't just happen to older people. And they went out and collected donations, and now we're having a huge event out here today.
The presentation helped bring perspective on why they were raising money.
Kind of scary to think of having it, but almost like happy that people are trying to help.
And today is the payoff.
It's fun because you see how many jumps you can get.
The Heart and Stroke Foundation teams up with schools across Canada. They say over the years, almost $3 million has been put towards research specifically for children and physical fitness.
We have 19 stations running with different skipping stations in them. So some of them are short rope, some long rope, double dutch, egg beater, some hula hoop skipping, everything you can possibly think of. So we've got different stations set up, and the kids are just going to rotate through each station.
They don't know exactly how much they raised so far, but for now, they sharpen their skills.
When you jump, just try not to have your feet just close to the ground. You try to jump pretty high, and just make sure the skipping rope's on the ground when you jump. If you were doing the long rope, you'd have to look at the person's, when he turns, and when the arm goes down here, then you have to jump.
Katie Hudson, Newcap News.